Good evening and welcome back to my video series, Defining Virtuosity. My name is Odin Rathnam and I am Professor of Violin at Cleveland State University. I've been guiding my students through the Wohlfahrt studies, and today I would like to continue with the last two in Book 1 and several from Book 2. We begin with number 29, a moderato. It involves string crossings and slurs, where we want the arm to travel very smoothly across, not jerking from plane to plane, but rather following the bridge roundly. There are accents marked on the beginning quarter notes of each measure. Before we begin, I would like to call your attention to a few fingering changes. Bar 4, for the first note, instead of the open A, I use the fourth finger. The same in bar 7. And many of the times when open string pitches appear, I've altered the fingerings. Also, when we get to the fourth line, third measure, I tend to either go to second position or even to third position, and that's to prepare the low D in the subsequent downbeat with a stopped finger rather than an open D, again for the sake of vibrato. Later on, going down to the sixth line down, this is of course in the Schirmer edition, using extensions in the second bar for the B minor triad, instead of 1 3 1 4, using 1 2 1 3, and later on the same figure appears one line down, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, seventh line down, last two measures, 2 4 here, and 1 2 1 3. The reason I introduce this fairly early to students is that these extensions are very helpful to be able to use in all positions, to get us out of trouble, to avoid bad string crossings and so forth, but also for expressive reasons. So I introduced them already in Book 1 of the Wohlfahrt studies, and I also have a shift to the third position in the end, just to make it more sort of final sounding at the very end of the study. There are several ways to practice this. It's very easy for the 16th notes to become less than perfectly rhythmical. So you can, in the beginning, practice this détaché and bow every 16th note value. So that would mean you would give 5 strokes for a quarter tied to a 16th. And so forth. That's a good way to ensure that we're aware of strict subdivisions and that we have that ticking in our head when we do the slurred versions. In the slurred versions, I also like to practice teaching the student how to divide the bow. And that means playing a certain amount of bow on the first pitch, a certain amount of bow for the notes coming off of the tie, and then a certain amount of bow for the 4 notes returning to the starting point. It's very easy, again, to not consistently use the amount of bow that we want to. If we're going to use the bow, to really use the full bow. If we're going to use less, to be aware that we're doing it and not accidental about it. We can use less or more bow in various patterns as the etude develops according to what we want to bring out musically. The study basically sounds like this. Not easy. What some of the challenges for me are making sure that we limit the amount of arm vibrato, because it can tire us out if we use too much of that, and to really isolate the wrists. That's much less tiring. Another thing to think of is to really extend the arm through the end of the stroke into the up bows and to come inward on the up bows. Additional ways of practicing this study can include, and aren't limited to, breaking up all of the 16th notes into separate note patterns, but hooking the first note into the quarter, so that we would have this and then an extra down, then an extra up here. So that would be. An additional method for practicing this is all spiccato. So you would do everything as it comes. And finally, we can do it in 2/4 time, eliminating the quarter that's used for the first beat. So then you would just be outlining the triads. And this is good for coordination because we want to keep the spiccato the same if we're crossing strings. We don't want to lose control. So by combining these studies, these different methods of practicing it, it becomes actually easier to play it as printed in the end. I also think that the notion of playing it just forte is okay, but better if we practice it in different dynamics and with different expression on different measures according to what's going on harmonically, or just arbitrarily to develop control over different concepts, crescendoing, diminuendoing, etc., etc. So it's a tricky little study and deserves some attention. I hope that you found this helpful, and please feel free to comment or ask any questions below. And I hope that you'll also subscribe and share this page to friends. Thanks for listening.